Hello and welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Soccer Show. I'm Adam Zdroik, joined by Ryan Belongia. We're talking, I think, the first ever 7-game slate in Champions League. And this also happens to include Manchester City, PSG, Chelsea, and Real Madrid. Ryan, are you ready for this?
I mean, I'm as ready as I can be, I guess. Yeah, first ever seven game slate, and I mean, it's sort of a nightmare slate with City and PSG, like they're always going to be. I mean, last week it was similar. Mbappe came out and scored 2 goals. No one really played him. Haaland scored a brace. Some people played him, but of course, then there's Neymar and Messi. And then, KDB. Then we have the Real Madrid guys. So, like, all of, I think most of the ownership will gravitate towards PSG and Man City. I mean, like usual. And there's 5 other games to pick from. And I mentioned it a little bit last time, but leverage is like the name of the game in Champions League. It's much different than the Premier League, in my opinion, because you can get guys under 5% capable of scoring 2 goals, and plenty of guys. I mean, just in last night's slate, I was the only person who played Diaby in both the 333, which has 100 people, and the qualifier. And there's plenty of guys like that. The slates before that I mentioned with like the Spurs guys and the Napoli guys. And, we have the Napoli guys on this slate. So for tournaments, it's very interesting. For cash games, it seems pretty daunting, because we have so many options, especially at midfield and defender. There are a ton of options. But I think cash games is pretty straightforward, actually. There's just one major question. I think there's one question for cash games, and we'll get into that.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like so the other 99 people in the 333 didn't listen to the show. They thought they were too good for the show when we said on our show that yesterday or 2 days ago, Atletico Madrid away from home, why not Bayer Leverkusen? No one's going to be looking at them. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure
and by the way,
you probably had some Schick on your squad too. He hit the post a couple times, I feel like, but
you just took the words out of my mouth. Yep, Schick hit the crossbar, he hit the post. So, yep,
so
you're right. I mean, we've been on it.
yeah,
The week
I mean,
before
yeah.
with Mudryk from Mikhail Mudryk from Shakhtar.
Yeah, so this one's a little different. I think the thing is with Mbappe and Neymar, like all these guys almost at 13K, you basically need Mbappe to repeat what he did last game with a brace. You need him to get to that number, which obviously is possible. They're playing Maccabi Haifa, so you know. But are all their guys going to get 2 goals? Are all their guys going to get on the score sheet multiple times? That's kind of where the difference is going to be because you got Messi at 10.9K. Holland is at 11.6K against his former team. He has minus 230 odds to score. Next highest on the slate, Mbappe is minus 145. So you have the questions here. But because of Messi, because he's 1K, more than 1K cheaper than Neymar, is your cash route plugging in Messi at forward?
Yeah, I think it is, definitely. Like you mentioned, Mbappe and Neymar over 12K, and Holland up there too. You can't really consider these guys for cash at those prices. And Neymar hasn't really been taking sets in the last few matches, at least maybe 1 or 2, but not like he was earlier in the season. And also at those price tags, like for tournaments, even these guys need 20 plus points to beat you. 18 points, 16 points, 1 goal or whatever. Yeah, that's probably not enough. There's not much cheap value on this slate, especially at forward and even at midfield as far as like really cheap value. So it's tough to afford those price tags. But then, yeah, Messi. I mean, cheaper than those other guys, taking the sets. And I think you want a piece of PSG against Maccabi Haifa. So yeah, I'm comfortable starting my lineups with Messi.
Yeah, his goal. Yeah, I noticed here his goal odds are worse than Mbappe, than Neymar, and he has been kind of struggling to score, I guess, for the past month or
Yeah.
so at
And I mean, they
PSG.
should be. They should be because he plays a bit deeper,
Hmm.
and Mbappe and Neymar take pens.
Right, and I mean, how much does that even matter in this matchup? Maybe he is playing deeper, but I mean, what is that going to be? The top of the box against Maccabi Haifa? Like, that's
Right.
not going to be a
Like,
massive difference here.
yeah, I agree. The pricing is like kind of accurate for these PSG guys, just like based on what they've done so far. But this matchup is so good that, yeah, I agree with you. It like evens it out a bit.
So forwarding cash games, we got Messi. Are we? I don't know. I don't know who your option is, but I don't know if I'm crazy for plugging in this Maccabi Haifa guy in my squad. But what are your thoughts on Haziza at 4,100? Am I thinking too much? Am I going? Is this incorrect here?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think. No, I don't think it's necessarily incorrect. Because the rest of these forwards are just not good for cash. Like, okay, Phil Foden would be the next place you could go. 8,500, still taking a few sets, playing for City. He's actually played 90 minutes more often than not this season. So you could go to Foden. But after that, there really aren't guys with floors. And then, so one of these cheap guys makes sense because I alluded to like one big question on this slate, and that's whether you play Kevin De Bruyne or not.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of midfield options and decent ones, but De Bruyne is obviously the best. But if you want to play him and Messi, you're going to need one of these cheap forwards. So it can kind of be anyone because there's no one and there's no one above them really. So I don't, I don't really want to roster. Does this guy from Maccabi Haifa that you mentioned, does he take sets?
He does.
Well, that's good enough because to be
Right.
honest, there's he might be the cheapest forward on the whole slate who starts, right? I mean,
He technically is like a wing back, and
I just mean forward eligible.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's probably the cheapest or one of them. I mean, somebody else on Maccabi Haifa is probably going to be cheaper, but uh,
Yeah, I
yeah, I'd be
kind of.
fine with
So it's if anyone watched our show last week, I kind of mentioned him almost as a joke
that. Yeah, and he did
last
it.
week,
Yeah,
but I mean he was 4,300 at Benfica. I saw he took set pieces and like he's drawing a lot of fouls. He drew a lot of fouls against Benfica. He does a little bit of other things, and while he
yeah.
could commit 5 fouls against Neymar and company, maybe he gets 2 corners and maybe he gets some other random stats. And I mean, even if his floor is like six
I,
points, like that's not the worst thing. So I mean, 4.1K that allows you to get both Messi, both De Bruyne, spend up at defender. So I mean, like it just depends who else you're actually using at forward.
no, yeah, you're right. I think it's fine. Um, and Maccabi Haifa's matchup against PSG is much better than them playing against Manchester City.
Right.
So it's yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much it means for them playing at home, but I mean, it's better than playing away, I guess. So,
Yeah, and really it's all about getting KDB and Messi. That's like really what it's about. Because yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to midfield, but there's a lot of options.
mhm. Does anyone else stand out at forward? Like, what if Hazard starts at 5,500 home against Leipzig?
Yeah, that would be acceptable. I mean, you get you're gonna get 60 minutes out of him though,
Yep.
never love that. And he doesn't really have much of a floor. I mean, he's more of a name at this point, but it's a pretty good matchup
It's a
for.
pretty good name, at least.
Yeah, no, don't. I'm not. He's still very talented, and I still believe in him in that regard. But 60 minutes and not much of a floor. I don't know. Like, sure, I guess, but
Hmm.
um, for tournaments, yeah, okay, for tournaments, Chelsea. We got to talk about Chelsea. I hate Chelsea.
Oh, man.
But I like
Chelsea.
I like
Okay.
Graham Potter. So we might have a new Chelsea in the near future. But as far as this slate, Sterling and Kai Havertz are relatively cheap compared to these other guys.
Are you
Um,
are you going back to the Kai Havertz well because Graham Potter's there? Is that what's going on?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, I would.
6,900.
I would though if I was playing. Yeah. Okay.
He
So
was he was like 5,500 in the last Premier League match, wasn't he?
I don't know. At some point, yeah, he was in that range. But if you look at these goal scoring odds, his salary is one of the cheaper salaries of the guys with the best goal scoring odds. So if you believe in Chelsea, it's not the worst thing. If I was making 20 plus lineups, yeah, I'd have some Havertz. But I think I kind of like Dusan Vlahovic for Juventus. And I see like maybe Milic would start for 4,800. I'd be fine taking a chance on him too in
Mhm.
tournaments. Juventus home against Benfica. But yeah, forward's tough. I mean, there's not much here. I guess I should say like Bernardo Silva, some people would say is in the conversation for cash games because he's 7,300 and you get a piece of Manchester City.
Yeah, you get a
Not really a
less
move that,
popular piece.
yeah, it's not really a move that I would make, but yeah, I don't know. Am I missing anything?
Well, just for tournaments, do you think that so because we have Manchester City and PSG in these spots, do you think that just like all of their high-end guys are gonna be kind of split? So like if you can get like a massive stack with one of these teams, I mean, like Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, De Bruyne, whoever starts up front for Man City, like these guys are going to be pretty popular, but all of them on the same team, like if you can fit them, I mean, it'll be more difficult. I guess it is pretty difficult for both teams, but I mean, you do have cheaper midfielders for PSG to where like you
Yeah,
can get like
yeah,
5 PSG guys in your team, and
yeah.
sometimes that works, especially on a
That
slate like
no, I
this. Like
think I think you're exactly right.
like if they score 5 goals and you get a random Vitinha or Marco Verratti goal or
Right,
assist kind of a
and
thing.
that strategy is going to be, I would say, different than the field. I think the field is going to play one of those guys in
Right.
in most of their lineups. So yeah, I agree with you. And I guess the final thing should mention the forwards in the Sevilla Copenhagen match are all cheap. Um, that's not like the greatest game to target, but if you can get a cheap goal from that game, yeah, that'd be nice. So, and Nesri or whatever his name is has pretty good goal scoring odds for 5,100.
Yeah, I mean, the hope with just the thing is if you don't want any of the if you don't use the top 3 PSG guys or the top 3 or 4 Man City guys, is that you kinda hope that, all those guys only make the score sheet once at max, and,
But
even if they score 3 or 4 goals, they're spread out kind of a thing, and
yeah,
then like you're getting for these other teams, you're getting maybe making the score sheet multiple times. Like if you look at the Napoli match or something like that,
exactly.
like you're spending down, but you're still hoping like even if those guys kind of match, like
Yeah.
if
No, I'm glad you
Zealand's
brought that up. You're not going to get beat by 18, 19, 20 points from these guys above 10K. It would be a really good strategy if you just didn't play anyone on the whole slate that's above 10K. None of the PSG guys, no Holland, no KDB. I mean, yes, it's risky, but like you said, you can afford goals from those guys, just not multiple goals. And then you would have like 3 or 4 guys per lineup, like single digit owned. So like that's a really good strategy for cash games. And then yeah, you mentioned Napoli against Rangers. When they were on yesterday's slate, all these guys were over 10K.
Mhm.
These Napoli guys were over 10K on this last slate, and now they're like way down. You have this Georgian kid, Kavicha Kvaratskhelia or whatever his name is. Kvara is
That's
his,
it. That's it. You got it.
but I mean, this kid's a stud. He 21 years old, and he can like pretty much do everything. I think I've only seen him play 3 times, but like really impressive. You can see him like ending up at a bigger club. And then yeah, Napoli just tore through Liverpool, and Rangers just got shredded by Ajax. So I mean, you could see something like that happen again. It's too bad Oshemen's not playing, but still, Napoli have a bunch of other guys you could go to. So yeah, if you just fade some, if you decided to just fade those guys, it'd be a really good strategy. Again, if you get hat tricks from a couple of them, you're just gonna lose for sure. But you're gonna lose a lot of times anyways on Champions League, no matter what you do. So
Right. I think the move is instead of like just trying to pick one or pick two and guess like here I'm gonna get Mbappe and I'm gonna go with Foden. Instead of like trying to guess with that, I'd either just go all in, get as many Man City or PSG guys as possible in your team, one team that is, or just like you said, just do someone else, do other teams. At least in tournaments. That's obviously this is obviously tournament strategy, but I think it's going to be a lot of the popular move. People are going to be like, "Oh, I want a piece of this, a piece of that," but a lot of times it's like, okay, you're just
did you mean
guessing
like
at
going all in on just like one or two of the top guys? Or what did you mean? I sorry, I didn't catch it all.
instead of just like trying to pick like one or two guys from each team and trying to guess what guy is going to go off for them. I think you either go all in on one of the teams or avoid both of them. Because I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think it's going to be a
Okay.
popular strategy where people are going to match up one or two PSG and Man City guys together, and hope that the guy they pick gets the brace, kind of a thing. And
Right.
I think that'll be popular, but I don't think, like, sure, you could get a brace with Holland, you could get a brace with Mbappe, you could get those two guys together, or I guess in tournaments, do you think Mbappe and Holland will be the most popular just based off what they did last week, kind of a thing? Do you think people will use them together?
No, I don't think
Okay.
people will use them together. Again, I don't know. Maybe people will though, actually. I've started to realize that people think very different than me for the most part. So maybe people will. But Mbappe, him being 12-8 should keep it down a little bit at least. I don't know. That's what I think. I think Holland going against his former club would be more popular. Messi will be more popular because of the price. Neymar, I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think the price would keep, I don't know, Mbappe the lowest owned of the PSG guys, but again, I could be wrong.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe.
I don't like pay attention enough to that stuff, but I'll check it out tonight.
Do you remember how many people were on like Lewandowski yesterday? Because he was 11.9K. Like even like a small single entry, Lewandowski at 11.9K as an underdog yesterday, he was still 25% in like a
Oh,
small single entry.
oh yeah. Do you know what he was in the main or?
Uh,
in-
no,
No,
I
it's
don't have
okay.
that, but
It doesn't matter. But yeah. So what you're saying is they end up like more owned than you think.
right. It's like you got the big name, he's gonna score goals, you know how
Yeah.
good he is, kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
I just think sometimes price doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah.
But if we go between Holland and Mbappe, I think it's pretty obvious that Holland's gonna be more popular just because he's cheaper and because he's better odds to score. So
Yeah. I just checked the main and Lewandowski was 20%.
yeah,
So
I mean
again,
that's
like that's
that's pretty
higher
high.
than, yeah, that's pretty high. Yeah.
I mean, obviously this is a different slate where you have many more high end guys, but
But you're right. And I mean, none of these PSG guys are none of those guys are going to be low owned by any means.
mhm.
They're going to be very popular.
So midfield and cash games, De Bruyne. Do we plug in Messi and De Bruyne together? De Bruyne is 10K. I think reasonable price. They're at home. That's pretty safe cash move. Wouldn't you say? Just plug those guys in together.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, at the top end, as I mean, especially in midfield, it's like, what else are you going after here? I guess it's Zielinski if you want 8,700 Zielinski, but I guess, but I
No,
mean,
you don't want that. Sorry, I was just playing around with the lineup a little. Yeah, you want KDB and Messi.
mhm,
Yes, you do. Zielinski, no, he's only played longer than 76 minutes one time this season. Mason Mount, yeah, no, I'm not going to touch the Chelsea set piece situation in Graham Potter's first match. Just
nope,
no way. Hopefully going forward though, Chelsea become a little bit easier to play. Graham Potter normally plays his best players longer than 60, 70 minutes. He normally has a guy that's, is going to be taking the corners. So hopefully that happens, but I'm not guessing in the first match. Going down a little bit, you got Kostic, 7,200. Again, this isn't Philip Kostic from Eintracht Frankfurt.
mhm.
He's taking some of the sets, but not like less than half. Maybe he'll take half. And he's getting subbed sometimes, and he'll probably get subbed again with Angel Di Maria back on the bench. So I'm not going to go there, at least not for cash games. And then last week we had Tony Cruz way underpriced at 5,100. He didn't do that great against Celtic, but he's still underpriced here at 5,800 for a home match against Leipzig, who have really been struggling. So yeah, you're probably just going to plug KDB and Cruz in. Like, that's pretty easy. A guy I didn't mention that looks pretty good too, though, is Soboslai, 6,600 for Leipzig on the other side of that matchup. He's finally getting like a good run in the side, 90 minutes in consecutive games, taking most of the sets, scoring goals. So I like Soboslai too, but De Bruyne and Cruz seem pretty easy for cash games.
Yeah, I think that you can actually in cash games if you don't want Cruz to actually look at these cheap PSG midfielders like Verratti and Vitinha. Only because they're cheap. I mean, I know they don't take set pieces or anything, but I mean, just given the matchup, you think they're going to get to 5 points just because of how offensive PSG are going to be, and then Real Madrid against Leipzig. It's not as good of a situation as PSG, and you still have like the lack of upside with Cruz. Like I still think that the PSG guys are actually usable if you need the extra 700 extra, almost 2K for Vitinha. So
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but to be honest, I wouldn't do it.
you don't.
Ferrati's priced too close. I mean, look, I'm always looking for reasons to fade Cruz, and I don't play him in tournaments, but this is still a cheap price for cash games. And the other thing is, he's going to be pretty popular. And while he doesn't have like consistent upside, if he gets an assist from a corner and scores 16, 18 points, you're going to be in big trouble. And he's been taking some more shots recently too. I think it's possible, we'll have to see what happens, but I think it's possible he might be a little bit better this season with Tchouaméni instead of Casemiro. But I don't know,
Mhm.
let's just wait and see. I mean, better from a DFS perspective. But yeah, like, I don't love Cruz, but for cash, I think he's still a pretty good play at that price. But like, I see what you're saying, and I guess if you really needed it, Verratti's not that cheap though. The Juventus guys are cheap. Like, actually, like Paredes and Moretti have been like sort of splitting some corners for Juventus. And they're favored. One's 4K and one's 3.6K. Again, I don't think you need it.
Would
Yeah.
you play Quadrado if he's in like the front three or something?
Yeah, that's another one. Glad you mentioned that. I think it looks better than it is. Like, it seems like same as Kostic. Quadrado's not really going to take sets. He's going to take like one or two sets,
Hmm.
maybe, and he's going to get subbed, probably. Like, especially with like Di Maria there, and they I know they have a lot of injuries, but they're still subbing. They're still subbing those guys. I know Cuadrado picked up a red over the weekend, so I don't know if that maybe gives him a better chance to play 90. But no, I wouldn't do it I wouldn't do it for cash games. You can't play Cuadrado over Tony Cruz, even though you'd like to.
Right.
I know you'd like to, but you just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Jack Grealish, if he starts, he's 5,600.
Now that's better. That's very cheap. So yeah, you'd have to consider that. He always disappoints when he's cheap, but now he's like extra cheap. So yeah, I'd be fine considering that.
I mean, there's a lot of guys just like if you go down like below 5K even, like you have Eric Lamela expected to start. He didn't play last match, but 4,800. I mean, going against Copenhagen. I mean, that'll be an interesting matchup. It seems like everyone in that game is cheap, and I mean, for good reason. You have the low implied goal total, but I mean, there could be 3-4 goals in that. This is Champions League, so
yeah, I agree. I think it's a good game to target for tournaments. I mean, not for cash games.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what you meant. Yeah, there's a lot of options in this range. Another guy, Fede Valverde. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists already this season, and he's been playing in the front three more often than not. So take a look at Real Madrid's formation when it comes out, because Valverde has upside in the front three for a pretty, cheapish salary.
I assume he'd be up there just because Benzema's out, and like that's what he was doing last season. But I guess
You're
we'll
right,
never.
right. Unless I don't know if they play like a slightly different formation without Benzema, but yeah, just see.
Yeah, I mean, we have what they do over the weekend. So they still ran a 4-3 over the weekend. It was just Hazard played as like the central striker, and he went 59 minutes. Though I
Okay.
guess, yeah, I mean that
Yeah,
was against Mallorca and
yeah. These Sevilla guys, always hate playing Sevilla because just everybody gets subbed, and you never know like when. Yeah, everybody gets subbed, but for tournaments, I think it's fine. Like Lamela seems to get subbed later than the other guys. I see like Isco. Isco started and played 90 last game, I believe. I don't think we have him in the expected lineup, but he's only 3,800. So I mean, yeah, everyone's cheap in that game. You can play that game for tournaments.
yeah, everyone is cheap for Sevilla. Even like, I mean, I
And
don't
actually,
know.
like N Naziri, he goes 90 more so than the other guys. I'm not saying he's going to, but just because, he's a big target man, and the other guys are, not the other guys are interchangeable.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he
That's
did.
how it was. That's how it was last season. And,
Right.
and
He
I know
went
he played
90 over
90.
the weekend.
Yeah. There's that's how they have done it in the past.
I mean, they're just hard to project just because we saw what they did against Man City last week. And it was like, all right, here's Sevilla. We're at home. We know we're going against Manchester City, but let's put like 7 defenders on the field and see what
That lineup
happens.
was hilarious.
Let's put Alex Telles as like in an attacking position. Maybe this will help, defend.
Yeah, it's not the same Sevilla as it was in recent seasons. They used to be
No.
really tough, and they could play big teams really tough. They've struggled recently, but I don't know. This is Copenhagen. They could put
Yeah.
a few past Copenhagen.
I mean, they're in this spot because like they had what Diego Carlos, Jules Kundu, like their back line was gutted. They have completely new center
Right. Those
backs.
are like right, exactly. Those really good defenders. They had, Lucas Ocampos and better attackers as well. Other guys I'm not thinking of, but yeah.
Yeah, this isn't like the same. This isn't the same defense as last season for why they're actually in Champions League. Uh,
Right.
Gudel, I don't know how much he played last season, but like Nianzu was,
Gudej is a center midfielder, so they're putting him there for like, I don't know.
I mean, he was just like a backup at Bayern Munich, and he rarely played, kind of a thing.
Oh, I think he's young and gonna be really good. But yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying he still doesn't have a ton of
Right. No,
experience.
you're right. So yeah, the game is a good tournament target. I mean, we keep saying it. Everyone in that game is cheap, and one of those teams can easily score 2 goals.
Anything else? I mean, we could just read off all of these guys because there's
I mean,
probably
we
a lot
talked
of.
about like almost like tons of guys.
Yeah, I mean,
Seriously.
we could just read off all these names, and so, a lot of them would be fine. But
Right.
so I'm interested to hear your thoughts for defender. I have not read your article yet, so I don't know what your thoughts are. But speaking of Graham Potter, I like the Chelsea wingbacks in this spot. They're home against maybe not this spot so much, but I like them going forward more than I did before under Tuchel. So like if you can get a 6,500 Reece James, we don't know set pieces. That is going to be an issue, but 6,500 wing back Reece James, 5,700 if Cucurella starts. We'll see with that. But do you
Yeah.
like the Chelsea wing backs in this spot? Are you spending
Okay.
up for them both? I guess.
Defender is tough. Defender is very tough. I think you might have 10 defenders on this slate who could take set pieces. We'll run through them. These Chelsea guys, man, Reece James has really, really hurt me a lot this season. He pretty much hasn't taken set pieces since the first game of the season. I like the price. It's nice to see him cheaper now, but I can't prioritize it. Like, he's fine for tournaments, but I'm not prioritizing it for cash. Like, he just hasn't been taking sets. Now, if he comes out and takes them with Graham Potter now, he's going to be a great play. But I don't know, man. I don't really feel like taking that risk when there's other defenders to play. Although there's some risk with pretty much all these defenders. I'm not playing Cucurella either.
Okay.
If Chilwell's on the bench, I mean, just not doing that to myself. Vice versa as well. If Chilwell starts and Cucurella's on the bench, like, I just don't want to do that to myself. Okay, so then going down, Cancelo, fine for tournaments. He's been crushing recently, a couple assists and a goal, but not for cash games. Mario Rui for Napoli has been taking a few corners, but not as many more recently now that Politano and Zielinski are starting. So probably not going to go there. David Raum for Leipzig is going to split with Soboslai. I think he's fine. I think he would be fine. Marcus Acuna has been taking most of them for Sevilla, but he got subbed at half over the weekend for Alex Telles. Not the greatest sign when you have 2 left backs taking set pieces. Sevilla makes subs like we spoke about. So I don't really want to go there, at least for cash games. James Tavernier, I would play for sure if, I knew that he was fit. He came off injured after 45 minutes last week against Ajax. He's like, I guess, a little bit of a doubt for this game, but I think he's going to play. So, like, I still like Tav because he takes at least half the sets and he's got penalties, and like, he's going to play 90 minutes. At least he will when he's fit. So there's a little risk there. Going down still, Sergi Gomez for City. He's actually taken a set piece in both of his matches so far. Now, he's not like going to take a lot of them when KDB and Foden and Mars and them are there, but he's got clean sheet equity too, and he plays for Man City. So like, you could consider Sergi Gomez. But in this range, I think I would go, with Tavernier. I would for sure if he's healthy. But then
still on the Tavernier train.
Yeah, I thought he signed for Bournemouth, if you remember our first podcast of the season. But, it turns out he's still on Rangers, and he crushes for Rangers. It's not the greatest matchup. against Napoli, but it's not the worst either. And
Did you
Rangers
play him
have been
last
pretty
week?
good in Europe.
Did you play him last week?
Yeah, I did,
Okay.
definitely. It hurt. It hurt. Yeah.
So
But
I
yeah. Okay. Just to finish it off, we'll
yeah, go ahead.
go down just a little bit. Probably the first guy I'd plug in for cash games is this Christensen, 3,900 for Copenhagen.
Okay, cash games. Christensen is the first guy. All right.
Yeah, I think so. Just because, it's weird to like choose a Copenhagen guy over all these other guys. And we don't have that much evidence, but he took most of their set pieces last time. He's left-footed, and it seems like he'll do that again. Like, me and you did a little research pre-pod and found out, a guy that had been taking sets before is not on the team anymore. So, Christensen took them last time. Kid's 19. He looks like a pretty decent prospect. And, so he should continue to take those left-footed ones. I feel pretty good about that for 3,900. These other guys aren't safe. And I don't think any of these 5K guys are in like smash spots. So like, yeah, I'm cool with starting with Christensen.
All right. Yeah, we started, I don't know, a few minutes late this morning because we were trying to figure out what was going on with Copenhagen set pieces. And not to bash who scored, but their corner numbers are incorrect. So if you're using them for corners, I look elsewhere. But
yeah, they're
I'm not sure.
definitely incorrect and relatively often.
Right. So you mentioned Tavernier, 5,200. But what about on the other side with Borna Barisic?
Yep. Borna Barisic will take the other corners. It's
What if you
okay
had
yeah. No, I think he's fine.
Christensen and Barisic in your cash defenders? Is that too much?
I think it'd be okay, but I would rather get up to. Yeah, I think it'd be okay, but I would rather get up to a 5K guy. I would try to get up to
at least
5K.
one defender who's actually favored.
Yeah, like Barisic takes corners, but he doesn't really do that much else. I mean, he crosses, but I mean, he doesn't really, when they're underdogs like this against Napoli, like he might have a 5-6 point floor or something, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if you necessarily even want that.
Yeah, there's just a lot of options, especially if you don't go to the peak here. So
yeah, like I'd rather, like you said, I'd rather have at least one favored defender, or if I'm gonna start two underdogs, have the other one be Tavernier because I mean he takes pens and scores goals and takes free kicks. So yeah.
Are you considering? I don't know how much you mentioned about Hakimi, but he's 5,600.
Oh no, but I'm glad you brought that up. I think he'd be fine for tournaments. I'm considering the cheaper guys. I like Nuno Mendes.
Yeah,
For
he's 43. Okay.
I mean, I love Nuno Mendes as a player. We've mentioned he's not the most consistent for DFS, but he has tons of upside in a matchup like this, like assist upside. So yeah, like Nuno Mendes, and then maybe like a lower owned guy in this same range for tournaments. Carvajal, guys like that are okay. Carvajal or Mendy. Like, I mean, Carvajal gets forward more. He's had a couple assists recently. I like guys like that for tournaments.
There's so many guys. Like the fact that Nuno Mendes is 4,300. He has a chance created, at least one chance created in every game he's played this season. Go ahead. No, it just seems like because all these forwards are so expensive, because Mbappe and Neymar are above 12K, they move down the price of a lot of these guys.
Yeah, he's still he's underpriced though. Like, would you rather play Nuno Mendes or Borna Barisic?
Right.
It's like
right.
You might get different answers from different people, but I think Mendes is cheap enough where he'd even be fine in cash as a last piece.
Yeah, I mean Sergio Gomez 4,900.
Sergio would be fine too. I mean, plays for City, and we've seen him play once, and he crossed the ball. So, okay, here's the thing. Okay,
This is like the opposite of yesterday when it was like plug in TAA, plug in Simicast, and
Right. Like the
don't
exact
even look at
opposite.
anyone else.
The exact opposite. I mean, how easy was that, right? And they both smashed.
Right.
Okay, so Sergi Gomez, he's playing with Erling Haaland as his striker now, who's very good in the air. So City are going to cross the ball more this season. You look and see that Gomez had, 6 crosses last week?
Yeah.
But it brings me to a point about Chelsea. Okay, when we were rostering Reece James and he just continuously does nothing, and even the other guy. Well, you look at Chelsea's center forwards, and they're starting Sterling and Pulisic, 2 guys who are like 5'5" or something. Why is Reece James ever going to cross the ball? Okay, and this is the same. Listen, this is the same as it's always been for Chelsea. If we go back a couple years, look at some of the crossing numbers when Olivier Giroud would start, or when Tammy Abraham would start, or when Romelu Lukaku would start. Okay, they don't have guys like that now. So when you look at a lineup and they got 3 little people starting up top.
Oh my god!
You can't expect them to be whipping in crosses, which just makes them not as safe.
Man, I have to like, I don't know if I have to apologize on your behalf, but okay, Raheem Sterling is 5'7" and Pulisic is 5'10".
Okay, my bad. Sorry. Trying to make a point though.
Yeah. I'm just let me check Aubameyang's 6'2", so there's a chance he starts.
That was just the last match when I really noticed it. Was the last match was because Sterling and Pulisic started, and it reminded me of all the times when it used to happen. I forget who used to start. They used to have somebody that would start instead of a couple. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But when Havertz is in there, Havertz is pretty good in the air. So, of course, they're going to cross to Havertz. And, now they have Aubameyang. But you just look for stuff like that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I will say, like, just in terms of Graham Potter and Brighton and stuff, it seems like, I mean, his lineups always were pretty, like, you had some pretty offensive guys playing on the wing in his, like, Leandro Trossard has moved to the wing for Brighton over the past year. And, like, he's a guy who used to play attacking midfield, even forward at times. Like, he's been playing on the left wing for them. They've had March there, Cucurella there. They've had pretty attacking players, though. So I think, like, he likes the guys who get forward more. So I don't know. I just think that helps just the Chelsea wingbacks in general. I mean, obviously, this is their first game with him.
Right. I hope you're right. I'm a big Graham Potter fan too, and I've been a big fan of playing Reece James. So, like, yeah, I want to keep playing him. Mm-hmm. Just worried about it.
So is this for cash games? I guess first, is this a 3 defender slate? Because
I think it can be. Yeah,
because you have these cheap defenders here.
I don't think it needs to be, but like, I guess it depends what you want to do at keeper. And I guess it depends how you rate some of the other midfielders.
But I think just if you have like if you have 4K or something sitting in utility, like, would you want? I mean,
yeah, then I would make it then I would make it a 3 defender slate.
Right.
If I had 4K ish at util, yeah, I would play like a Nuno Mendes or someone like that. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, it's like either Nuno Mendes or like Vitinha or.
Sure.
I mean, right.
Right. But like, no, yeah, right. Like I would play 3 defenders in that case. In the case I wouldn't, if like, what if you want to play like KDB, Cruz, and Soboslai? I don't know. Or let's say some midfielder in that range.
This is in cash?
Yeah, I don't know. He's better than those defenders. At least I think so. He's better than the 5K defenders. I'm just throwing options out there. 3 defenders seems okay though. We just mentioned there's all these guys that take sets. I just
All
don't
right.
think any of them are standout plays. But like for cash, it seems fine.
You mentioned Soboslai, so I have to ask. In the Premier League slates, we always said do not play teams going to Brighton because Brighton just eat up teams with how they play. Now Graham Potter is at Chelsea. I mean, this is their first match with them, so this is probably thinking too much about it, but
No, I don't think you are. I just think that Soboslai now plays for Leipzig and not so, and Leipzig plays against Real Madrid. Is that what?
oh my gosh. Yeah, sorry.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I yeah, okay. I don't know what I was thinking. All right, forget what I said.
No,
Just forget all
you
that.
can confuse RBS and RBL. I mean, it makes sense, especially considering that Soboslai came from Salzburg.
I just saw Seawald at 3,900, and for some reason that was in my mind against Chelsea. But forget that correlation there. So all right, but okay, goalkeeper. I think yesterday it was Porto had the best clean sheet odds, and their odds were 44%. Diego Costa was 6,100, and he gave up 4 goals. He gave up 4 goals. He
I
was the
played
worst
him in
goal.
cash.
Yeah, right. He was the worst goalkeeper on the slate, and he was 6,100. I think the first over 6K goalkeeper we've had this season in, I think, all formats. This slate, we have 3 teams with better than 45% clean sheet odds. Donnarumma's 5,900, Ederson 5,800, and I guess Mendy's out, so Kepa is 5,700. Are you going to try and spend up at goalkeeper with 3 teams having pretty close clean sheet odds here? Depends if
I'd
you get
like
Soboslai, huh?
right. No, yeah, right, exactly. Then I wouldn't be able to. But you might want to. I don't know. Goalkeeper is always a tough question for me, especially for cash games. Like, yeah, you'd like to afford Donnarumma if you can get there. Maybe it's worth it maybe it's worth it. I don't know, but are those odds good enough, or are any of those guys' odds good enough?
I mean,
I don't really have an answer for this one. Like, Jordan usually gives the good goalkeeper answers. This
right.
slate's a weird one. This slate's a weird one though, because you have, I don't know, you have
It's
Messi,
kind of funny that
you have Messi and KDB to pay for. But you can save money at defender, and still play good defenders. And I don't know. Yeah, you can at second forward too. I don't know. I'm torn about it on this one. I'm probably not going to spend up, but I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I don't
okay.
know. What do you think?
My first move was Matthew Ryan. I think he was actually former Brighton player. So just speaking about Graham Potter again, but Matthew Ryan for Copenhagen. He's 4,400. Seems kind of cheap. Like Sevilla are favored in this spot, but I don't know. I had a similar feeling with what the Leverkusen Atletico Madrid match yesterday, where it's like, why isn't Leverkusen favored? I mean, I'm not saying Copenhagen should be favored. I know Sevilla are a better team, but we did mention that this isn't the same Sevilla team even as a year ago, as 5 months ago. So like I do think is an advantage here for Copenhagen, and like you're getting a home goalkeeper at 4,400. I just don't think it's the worst thing.
We're on the same page. I wrote up Matt Ryan in the article, so I'm also on Matt Ryan. Matthew Ryan. I don't know. Maybe he's not a Matt. I don't know. I'm also on Matthew Ryan.
Matthew.
And yesterday I could only make 5 lineups because I was out to dinner, and I played Hiradeki on every lineup. So it's this similar, like you mentioned. So yeah, for this guy I see in the chat, who's my goalkeeper. Like, yeah, I like, me and Adam like Ryan for like a cheap guy. Expensive one. Yeah, I don't know, take your pick. If I had to pick one, I'm still going to take Donnarumma against Maccabi Haifa, but you can make arguments for the other guys. If you're looking really cheap, trying to take a little bit of risk, the Maccabi Haifa keeper has the most save upside on the slate, I would say. I would say that against PSG. And then I don't know, Chelsea. Chelsea haven't been like the greatest. First match with Graham Potter. So, you could play this Cone guy. But yeah, I mean, I'll say Matthew Ryan. Oh, you could play the Rangers keeper too. Sorry, Rangers at home, definitely. Rangers have pulled off plenty of upsets in Europe.
Yeah, I'd say for expensive, I'd say Kepa. I think Graham Potter's going to want a clean sheet in his first match. Not that he can do that
I
himself,
think
but
Thomas Tuchel wanted a clean sheet in all of his recent matches.
all right. Well,
I mean, you know what I mean? But no, I we like Graham Potter and his style. So, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I would not play Bono. Bono at 5,200. Perrin at 5,100. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, whatever. You got a wide range here. This is the first 7-match slate in Champions League. So yeah, Lucas Santos continues to ask a few questions for us. I mean, we talked about 3 defenders already. Steve is asking how he can be more consistent in cash games. Do you have an answer for this?
Definitely look at the best players' cash lineups. Every time you play cash, look at the best players' cash lineups and try to figure out why they did those things. Also, like, construction is important. Where to spend up and where to spend down. Like, who are the priorities? And like, I don't know, it's tough, but keep listening to us. Read the articles. We talk about different aspects of cash every slate, depending on what the slate calls for. So honestly, how you improve is you just keep playing and you just keep losing even. I mean, that's the way I got good. I mean, I lost a lot at the start. I mean, I think that's how most people learn. I mean, that's how you have to learn some things.
I think Champions League is just a different animal to where you almost can't even learn Champions League. You can't
Champions
learn
League is a different animal. Steve, I'm 0 for 3 in Champions League cash. So like, I'm not doing so hot either. I'm pretty sure I'll be profitable at the end of the season, but yeah, Champs League is a different animal.
Mm-hmm. It must have been these teams last week where the champions or the cut line for cash games was like 144 or something, if I remember correctly, just because you had all of the top guys get goals or go off kind of a thing. And, everyone had them. I think that was right. Maybe it was Kimmich slate. It could have been the Kimmich slate, but either way, I mean, it is a different animal. Like if you've just been watching like Ceramax lineups in cash games for Champions League, he's absolutely all over the place, widely regarded as like the top player, top cash player, and probably uses more spreadsheets than anyone. And his lineups have been absolutely wild. In cash games.
Yeah, that's a good point. Cash, and especially in Champions League, it's not clear cut most of the time, and it hasn't been clear cut this year. But still, look at the top players' lineups and try to figure out why they did what they did, is what I would say. I had one. Oh, this guy, is it PSG? Is that a showdown tonight? Some guy was asking about Mbappe captain.
It must be.
Okay, well, Mbappe captain, you're probably going to need a hat trick from him with the way the pricing is. Now, I mean, that can happen. But like, I would look at.
All right. On second thought, PSG are not the showdown, so I don't know what he's actually asking. So
okay, I don't know either. Just trying to see if there was any questions in here.
Yeah, someone is done with expensive goalkeepers after spending 6,100 on Costa.
That's fine. I mean, some slates it's easy to do, and some slates it makes sense. But yeah, you can be done with them, especially on slates like this.
I think we said it yesterday. I mean, we saw Premier League slates where we had 60% clean sheet odds, different situations, and then we have the 6,100 Costa, but he had a 10% better clean sheet odds than anyone else on the slate. So it made us think about Costa and there's no one really to spend on. So that was the reason a lot of people went to him. Obviously, it was a bad reason, but that was a reason. So, I mean, you can't really compare all these slates and be like, I'm done with expensive goalkeepers. Because, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah. Every
what
slate's
it,
different.
mhm.
Yeah, but Champions League is definitely different than Premier League. And, Porto got taught a lesson yesterday by Bruges. And, we all, at least or me, should have learned a little bit of a lesson too. That, just because Porto is a pretty big favorite with a 2 implied total doesn't mean they can't lose 5-0 to a team that's honestly, those teams are relatively similar in terms of quality, but still, it's just anything can happen.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset because those odds kind of swayed me yesterday.
Me too, man. I made them. I mean, I
I,
wouldn't say I made a mistake. I
I
played.
looked too much into the
I didn't
odds.
play as much Bruges as I thought. I was considering Bruges. I kept landing on some Bruges guys, and then I just didn't end up doing it. I did end up playing some Scott Olsen, but I agree with you. I should have considered them more.
We said on the slate, it was like we saw a week ago with Benfica, the biggest fair in the slate, and they disappointed. And it's like, why can't this happen again? And then instead of like going against that, we were just both like, okay, yeah, Porto, good tournament route.
Yeah, and that turned out to be wrong. But sometimes the pricing influences that as well. When you have guys on Porto that are under 5K, it's tough to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of got thrown for a loop too with Otavio starting, but anyways.
But yeah, so it's for this one. I mean, we kind of covered everything. We kind of covered cash. We kind of covered tournaments. But any last thoughts here? If you had to pick between Manchester City and PSG, stacking one of those teams, what team would it be?
Stacking them in tournaments?
Yeah,
Or
tournaments.
obviously, yeah. PSG would be my pick if I had to pick between one.
And
I
then if
think
you
the pricing makes it more difficult, but
they do
I
have
just
cheap
also
midfielders, they have cheap defenders, so it's like
yeah, and I just think besides Holland, the PSG guys have more hat trick upside, I guess I would say, than the other City guys. But I'll say it again. A good route for tournaments would be to not play any of these guys, or maybe
mhm.
play one. Maybe play one. But for instance, we didn't even speak about these two guys. I mean, you could talk about this slate forever,
We
but
haven't mentioned
no one's going to play
Vinicius.
these Real Madrid forwards.
Right, okay.
I mean, no one's going to. I mean, Vinny Jr. is an unbelievable player. He's scored in 5 straight matches, and I mean, this is what you're always going to get in the Champions League. Like I'm telling you, you wait till you see the ownership on some of these guys, and then watch the games, and you'll be like, oh, that guy could have had 2. That guy could have had 2. That's what wins these slates.
Yeah, you just get the guys who aren't popular, and it seems like if your name is smaller than Messi, if your name is smaller than Mbappe or Holland, they're not going to be
Okay,
popular.
yeah, and here's the other thing. Guys that aren't popular in Premier League, don't usually have good chances to score 2 goals, but guys who aren't popular in Champions League can score braces much easier.
I think my play here is if Andreas Cornelius starts, he's dealing with the minor issue here. I'm plugging him in. He's 5K, home against Sevilla. We've talked about the Sevilla back line multiple times in this show. Cornelius will be in at least one of my tournament lineups, just like a 5K forward here.
Yeah, okay, I like that. Yeah, I mean, makes sense. I hate making calls on who's gonna, but I'll say that Vlahovic scores for Juve at 6,700.
Okay. Like we keep mentioning this Sevilla, but like you look at what they've done this season, they've allowed multiple goals in every match this season outside of one when
No,
they
yeah, it's
played.
a great match to target. It's a great match to target. Yeah, and people probably won't as much as they should.
Yeah, I just can't mention enough that this Sevilla team is not the same as previous ones. They gave up 2 goals at Almeria, 2 goals at Osasuna. 2 goals at Espanyol. This is not the same
Right. So
Sevilla
you can play Copenhagen against them.
Yeah, just
I mean, they
stack
got some
6
talented
Copenhagen
players.
players. 6
Yeah.
Copenhagen players with Mbappe and Holland. There's your squad. Let's win some money. Ryan, any other thoughts?
Nah.
All right. Rotowire.com/soccer trial. You can get this cheat sheet. This cheat sheet that includes 7 matches on it, and you can get pretty much everything else we have at Rotowire with the subscription free 10-day trial. But that's it. That's it for Champions League. We got international break coming up. We may have something with Premier League for this weekend. We'll see. It's kind of some weird slates. We'll see what DraftKings gives us. But usually, I don't know. There'll be one big slate. But we may have content, we may not. But Ryan, you can find him at Ryan Belongia on Twitter. I am at Zdroik, and that's it for Wednesday's slate. Good luck, everyone. Good luck, Ryan, and we'll see you all later.
Yep. Thanks, Adam. Good luck, everybody.